Joe, tell me about what is involved with formation of a High Desert Economic Development Council.
Well, let me take you kind of back in time. If you had asked me in 1987 when I was in Santa Barbara if I knew anything about an economic development council, I would have said no. One, in Santa Barbara, you don't promote to bring industry to, you promote to bring rich people to Santa Barbara, so that's kind of why I moved out. I got over here in May of 1988, soon met a lady who forever I will be indebted to, Mary Scarpa, who recently passed away. And I met a friend of mine, Paul Soldano. Paul ended up doing some consulting work for the city of Atlanta, and he did work for the college. And we became friends. And then Brad Orchard got involved, and just a whole bunch of people. I mean, the Economic Council movement was how Robert Lovingood and I became such good friends. We were standing behind the soup kitchen downtown one day at the Samaritan's Helping Hand, and we were taking a break. Back then I smoked, and we were talking about if you can create enough jobs, you can pave your curbs and gutters in gold. It's all about job creation. Jobs. So I was a young 32-year-old with a whole lot of energy and not a whole lot of brains. Well, there was a group called the Victor Valley Community Improvement Council that was meeting at Apple Valley Country Club, and Midge Baltimore, who's still around, and her late husband Jack, and Mary Scarpa, Tom Graining, Tom Dorshak. I mean, they're all members. I showed up one day, kind of guns blazing, and said, "Hey, I'm the new guy in town, and what are you guys doing?" Well, they said that what they were trying to do is they were trying to promote the High Desert region. Very similar. I mean, that's how literally High Desert Opportunity got off the ground 30 years ago. Tom Green, that worked with us until the day that he passed, he was one of the founders with Marcia Tarosi and Bill Porter. I mean, these are people that set the stage for me and a lot of my competitors. And I think sometimes we kind of forget who these people were. The George Frys and the Ben Hinkles and the Ty Tyrones, blah, blah, blah. So it became pretty clear in '88. I got going in 1989. And then on December 28th of 1988, the Air Force notified the Valley that we're going to close George Air Force Base. I was quickly interviewed, did one of my first interviews up here on TV, Dick Dorwald. God bless Dick. Dick, if you're watching, I hope you're having a great day. So we talked about what do you have to do. Well, it became pretty clear that you needed to bring the cities together. And again, back then, I mean, we had fax machines. We didn't have the internet. If you want to get somebody to a meeting, you had to send them a letter, or you had to pick up the phone. Okay, or you had to have a fax. We actually had a fax that could send out 100 at one time, kind of pre-programmed.
Landline phone.
It was like the old pick up the phone and call. So with the help of Brad Orchard and Paul Soldano and Lovingood and just a whole bunch, Tony Freoff, we created what was called the Mojave. I think it was called the Mojave River Regional Board of Trade. And then it went to the Mojave Regional Economic Development Council after a couple of years. And Mary was absolutely totally behind it. I mean, she was a fireball. I mean, she was government, but she said, we got to partner with the private sector. And again, the whole idea was to promote the High Desert region collectively. Well, the market was in a free fall, and there was a huge fight over George Air Force Base. I mean, you remember the attorneys are going at it. So there was some territorial issues. And I still believed, as I do today, that 1 + 1 = 3. And whether you like somebody or not, if they can do something to better your community where you live, work, and play, then why not do it? So with the help of Ken Hobbs, I mean, God bless Ken. He's down in Rancho Mirage today. He kind of semi-retired. I hammered on him, and I said, Ken, he was the assistant city manager under Jim Cox. And I said, we have got to bring the cities together in the county, so we finally did. He dug out 28 inches of snow one morning to keep an appointment with me when I was on Park Avenue, because he knew that we kind of outlined this whole thing. Kind of back on up. When they had the Improvement Council that Tom Green and those guys were involved in, and we had the young people on over here, the one commonality we had was Mary Scarpa. And Mary was not one to say, don't bring your ideas to the table. So I called Tom Graining up and I said, Tom, meet me at Spring Valley Lake one night. And the whole idea was to buy him a drink or two and get him to see my way, and hopefully we would kind of merge. We hadn't even ordered the drink. When we shook hands and said, we need to do this together. And Tom was one of those very unselfish people that saw the big picture. I mean, he knew that his time was probably limited. He still had a good 10 plus years, but that we needed to do this together. So that helped create the regional council, which ultimately helped us propel to what we created was High Desert Regional Economic Development Authority. We had all the cities in the county. We had, I think, about a $200,000 a year budget. We hired Ron Rector, who had retired from Edison, to become our executive director. We hired Lisa Lemire, who was really my first associate, who's now gone on to just do great things over at the city of Hesperia. And she ran the office, and Ron was out there beating the streets. We had an active board. And then, politics got in the way. And the issue was who was putting in the money, and you had some issue about, cities felt that they should control it. And there were people like me that said, yeah, you should have a big voice, but you're using my money. You're using taxpayer money. So don't sit there and dictate to me as a government person. Come to us as a partner and say, we're generating property taxes, we're generating good sales taxes. Let's put $25,000 or $50,000 in the pot here, so we could go out and market. People wondered what my personal motivation was, because they thought, well, Joe's doing this because he wants to get real estate deals. One of the first things that we did was we had a real estate policy that no board of directors could do a deal. All the deals that Ron did, even to the day that we closed it up, we never knew. They were all coded. Project Green or Project this number or whatever. The whole idea was, if a company comes in the marketplace and they do something, it creates jobs, and those jobs translate into housing, and those housing starts translating into new cars, and those new cars, people go have lunch at Chateau Chang, and they go out and have dinner at Applebee's. I mean, it's a spiral effect. Well, then but what happens when a market's good and the economy's good, people say, we don't need to go out and promote. I mean, we're busy enough. And that's kind of what happened. So as the market started to increase and get good, unfortunately, we went to dissolve it. And it was in, I'm going off of memory, 2002, 2003, that it got dissolved. There were ironically, there were 4 people on the dissolution committee. I kind of cut the deal from the private sector with Ken Hobbs. And I remember sitting at First American Title in their conference room, and we had 28 people sitting at the table. It was so cool. It was like 14 people in the private sector, 14 in the governmental sector. Marcia Troisi sat at the end of the table. I will never forget as long as I live. And I was humbled, because it wasn't me, it wasn't Marcia, it wasn't Robert, it wasn't Jim Cox. The fact was that we needed to do this together. And it worked for a period of time, and then unfortunately it died. And when we boxed it up, and there was some infighting, and one of the cities did not feel that they really got their fair share, or one of the towns didn't feel they got their fair share, it died a sad death. The pallbearers were Bill Postmas, Janice Olson, I think Mike Page, I think Mike was involved, and myself. And so we boxed it up. Lisa put all the stuff in storage. Some of it has been, I think, tossed. I did keep pretty good records. It was kind of a big thing. So, years have gone by. The economy did really well. We all did really well. And then we've gone into a depression. This is what I would call my last run to see an economic council take off. So through the challenge of a conversation I had in May of 2012 with town manager Frank Robinson in the town of Apple Valley, we went out and had breakfast, and he said to me, I understand you know a little bit about economic development. I said, yeah, I've kind of been there, done that. I've rattled a couple of cages. And he said he had experience from down in Texas and a community outside the Woodlands. He said, would you be willing to help put this thing together? I said, no, I really don't have any time. And I really didn't really want to do it. But, the kind of the guilt thing and the fact that I've always said I would like to leave here someday knowing that I made my community a better place to live, work, or play. I said to him, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So I came back here and I ordered some data. And I looked at CoStar data, and we buy CoStar data. It gives us pretty much everything we need. And about 9,000 tenants. And then I looked and I said, okay, Chambers, you remove all the dupes, got about 1,500. VIPs about 1,000. Building owners about 4,000. So over a course of about 6 months, I'd come in here on a Saturday or Sunday and spend an hour or two, kind of highlight, send the stuff to up to April. She would then database, and before we knew it, we had about 1,050 stakeholders. I really feel people that are stakeholders. Now, people would say, well, you know, if you deal with Joe, they've got to be somebody that's got a lot of power and money. Absolutely has nothing to do with it. You know, Terry, you're a stakeholder here. You've been here a long period of time. So we would put you in, like, you know, video or media, because you help communicate the message out. So we had different categories. We had aerospace, we had manufacturing, we had solar, we had real estate. Out of the real estate, we had two categories, you know, commercial real estate. So who in the commercial should be there? You know, Don Brown with Cole Banker, Jason Lamro with Cole, Don Brown with Lean Associates, and Jason Lamro, and John Conley with CPI, and Mike Rademacher with MGR, and Jim Phillips, and you go down the line. Those people need to be there. And then on the residential side, you know, you would have Hannah Knapp with Century 21, and Jim Phillips again, or J.D. Phillips with Century 21, Carol Ewell with Shear. So you went through the list and said, okay, whether I like anybody on here, they're players, and they need to be at the table. The challenge comes down to, how do you create it? Who runs it? Who's going to pay for it? And so we floated out the idea. Actually, David Greiner and I sat on in here one day with Michelle Spears probably 5 months ago, and we batted the idea. He wants to do a regional chamber of commerce. It's a great idea. There's 11 chambers out here, and we've stopped paying dues to a lot of them because I'm out promoting the high desert through the Brad Coy Desert Report and just the things I do. But they have a great idea in trying to pull all the chambers together, but really the regional concept, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for you to sit down and talk to them. So up until then, I was real fired up. We were still moving forward. We cleaned up the list, and quite candidly, we haven't pushed it because I think that there needs to be some more impetus. You know, people would say, well, this is a Joe Brady thing, and after a while, you kind of say to yourself, we need to come together. High Desert has some pretty stiff challenges. We have some high welfare rates, high EBT and food stamp deals. We have very high unemployment. We're not creating jobs. So I think that there'll come a point where government will say, and the private sector will say, and maybe it's some other people within the private sector will say, let's go create something to go market the region. And that's what we need to do. The idea that Brad Mitzelfeld helped facilitate with the 5 cities and ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers, so that they're all out there and they're promoting the region, benefits the region. Sometimes we become too territorial. It's all about, you know, the me, the we, whatever. You know, if a company moves into Apple Valley, some of their people are gonna live in Atlanta or Pinion Hills or Wrightwood or Barstow or whatever. So I think the day will come that the city manager will come together. We have 5 exceptional city managers today. Absolutely. We have 5 great councils. You might have a member. You know, I really can only think of one member on one city council that I wouldn't want to have as my partner, but the balance of them, I think all the city councils have done well. The Board of Supervisors is hitting it out of the park. Just last week, Terry, I'm talking to a very senior director at the county, very senior. He's been there 30 years, and he said something to me about Loving Good, because he knows that Robert and I are close friends. And he said, boy, Robert's really doing a great job. And I said, yeah, he is. And he said to me, he goes, Joe, off the record, he goes, I've been here 30 years. I've seen everything. I've seen every antic. I've seen Lowick. I've seen Jerry Ease. I've seen the whole bunch of corruption. He said, I have never seen the Board of Supervisors work so well together as they are now. So you take 5 supervisors, some great department heads. Kelly Renders has just taken over economic development. Mary Jane has now moved to financial, and she's a financial genius. You take the 5 economic development managers on that here. You got Jim Hart out in Atlanta. You got Steve Landsberger, Keith Metzler, Oliver Chi. You've got some great talent out here. Eventually, they'll come together. Maybe they'll do it on their own volition, and the list of 1,050 people that we put together will market the newsletter too, and they'll become better informed, and they'll start their own conversation. But yeah, I really do think, Terry, that it's something that the Valley needs to do. I think they're making a huge mistake by not doing it. But there comes a point where between what goes on at Victor Valley College and my commitment there, that I really need to see that commitment through. And there's only so many hours in the day, and you just got to do the best you can for those things that you're involved in.